I'm here with Elizabeth Sidiropoulos from the South Africa Institute of International Affairs and Sachin Chaturvedi from the Research and Information System for Developing Countries in New Delhi, India. We have just, the three of us, co-edited this new book on development cooperation and emerging powers. And this book has come about as a collaborative effort of the network of the Managing Global Governance program. You're here now in Bonn to attend the MGG Partner Conference. Many thanks for that. One of the main issues that we've talked about during the last 3 days has been the relevance and the meaning of South-South cooperation. So, Elizabeth, could you elaborate a little bit where you see the distinct features and the special opportunities of South-South cooperation?
Of course, South-South cooperation is an old concept. I think it's become much more popular and topical in recent years because of the rise of emerging powers, because I think big developing economies are doing much more cooperation. What does that mean? It is about technical skills, it is about knowledge exchange, it is about ultimately mutual benefit. And that perhaps is one of the interesting ways in which it is differentiated from North-South cooperation, particularly when you take that very broad definition of South-South, which includes trade, investment, remittances. It's not just about aid, which has to date, although we've seen that change emerge in the Busan outcomes document, the focus has been largely in the North, certainly on aid. And I think it reflects also the changing thinking in the North around development cooperation, that it is actually much broader now, that aid is simply one instrument, one tool to contribute towards development, but that there are many others and that we need to factor those in.
Okay, thank you. Another topic of importance in our discussions was the Busan Partnership for Effective Development Cooperation.
Yeah.
Sachin, where do you see the southern providers of development cooperation, the rising powers, coming into the picture here? Do you think they are ready and prepared to take an active role in this? Or where do you see also certain obstacles, stumbling blocks for a universal global consensus?
I think that's where the uniqueness of this book lies, and I think if we see, there are two very clearly laid out chapters in this book where we have discussed this future roadmap, where to begin with. And I think if you see the last chapter in the book, it brings out these stumbling blocks quite clearly in terms of allowing South-South cooperation and North-South cooperation on two different tracks. And that was the major recommendation that we had. And fortunately, in Busan, the DAC could retain that distinct characteristic of South-South cooperation. If we see the performance and outcome documents of high-level forum declarations so far, be it AAA or be it Paris Declaration, there was very little recognition and acknowledgement of South-South cooperation as a separate platform for engagement. But here it has happened, and they have recognized it. So this, I think, is a major endorsement of preparation and preparedness of the emerging economies. So from that point of view, I think they are prepared. The idea is to engage them. And as we discussed at the DIE earlier, the idea should be to build up these bridges at the bilateral level. The DAC with China, DAC with India, South Africa, Brazil, and henceforth. Because we have to build this trust deficit. And this trust deficit comes in from several sources. As Elizabeth rightly said, the South-South cooperation is at multi-levels. It is at trade, it is at investment, and in trade we see the Doha round is stuck because of the trade trust deficit. We find similar resistance for multilateral investment treaty, so it is stuck. We find similar trust deficit on intellectual property rights. So the treaty on WIPO, the World Intellectual Property Organization, is stuck. So everywhere, the climate change is there, they are stuck. Everywhere you find this trust deficit in a major way between emerging economies and developed countries. Our book is very unique in terms of talking about these new ways of engagement.
And I think the other point is that, as the book indicates through the various case studies, is how in in those particular countries that the book focuses on, South-South cooperation, the thinking around it and what it entails, what the challenges are as well, is an evolving process. And I think both in terms of how we systematize our South-South cooperation as countries, whether it's as South Africa, India, Brazil, China, Mexico, I think is an interesting part of that broader global aid architecture, or global development cooperation architecture that is very much front and center in this decade.
And it's not just about South-South cooperation, it also brings in North-South cooperation. And there are three sections in the book which are very clear. One is the historical context of South-South cooperation. The other is North-South engagement and what lessons can be learned out of it, and where the UN institutions can play a role. And then we get into excellent case studies. We could get Mexico, China, Brazil, South Africa, India on board, and we could get this book together. So I think it's a worth buying book, I would say.
Okay. Thank you very much for sharing your insights in this brief conversation. And let me also express my gratitude on behalf of the German Development for this very fruitful cooperation. I think we have come up with a wonderful product. It will be available starting in May of this year. And we're very much all of us looking forward to the resonance, to the response, and to continue the discussion and the joint research collaboration. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.